can be what you wanna be. Be what you wanna be. You just be what you wanna be with me.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Happy AF. My name is Sambowker, and I am so excited that you have decided to join me here today. So this place is the place to hang out if you are on a mission to live a purpose-led, divinely inspired life. And what does that even actually mean? Well, do you know what? I really believe that every single human being on the planet has special gifts, and it's your job, it is your purpose to go out and share your fabulosity with the world. And I want to help you do it, okay? And you know what? I know that every single one of you that is sitting here watching this today, there is going to be something here for you. There's going to be some little nugget that if you act on this little nugget, it will profoundly change the direction of your life. Now, I know that's a pretty big statement, right? Why do you think I can make that? Or why is it that I've decided I can make it? Well, I'll tell you why. I believe that confidence comes through competence. And you know what? I've done enough work now over the last few years, let's just say few years. I've done enough work on myself over the last few years to know a couple of things. One, success leaves clues, and that there is evidence along the way. Now, that success leaves clues, I don't even remember where I first heard that. But what I do know is that when I first heard it, I'm not sure it really landed in the way that it was meant, because I was like, well, what does success even mean? And what do you mean success leaves clues? What I now understand for that to mean is that first, you need to get really clear on what does success look like for you. And I genuinely think this is why so many people are not living their happiest, best lives, because their definition of success has been defined for them by somebody that they love. A mother, a brother, a teacher, a sister, somebody else who decided what happiness and what success looked like. And I know myself, I absolutely fell into that trap when I was younger. I thought that success looked like, being super successful was being the best at, sales or something, being the best somewhere, being highly recognized, having lots of money, having the house, having the car, having all those things. And then when I got there, I wasn't happy. So to me, that was definitely not success. And so when I talk about success and success leaving clues, here's what you have to determine. You have to determine what is it that matters to you? What is it that makes your heart sing? And what is it that makes you feel good? Now, one of the things that I've noticed about myself lately is that I've really been looking outside at what I determine as successful, and also looking within as to what feels good for me. And as I go along on this journey that we call life, I'm seeing people doing the things that I feel like I want to do, and I'm modeling that behavior. Now, in NLP, we call it modeling, and it's quite simple, really. It's as simple as this. Find someone who has what you want, look at what they are doing, and essentially copy them. Rip off and duplicate what it is that they're doing. And that might sound a bit like, dodgy, rip off and duplicate, but R&D, research and development, rip off and duplicate. What I mean by that is don't go out and become a copycat of somebody else, but if you want to be, an entrepreneur, right? If you like the idea of creating your own business and being entrepreneurial and going out into the world and sharing something new, then find somebody who's done that and go and hang out with them, because proximity is power, right? Proximity, where you spend your time and who you hang out with, that is going to determine whether you level up or level down. Now, I want to give you an example of this, okay? The people that you surround yourself with are often well-meaning, but they don't have the capacity to see your vision yet, okay? Because it didn't come to them. It wasn't their vision, it was yours. So when you have this little whisper, this little idea that pops into your brain, and then you go and share it with someone before it's cultivated and before it's ruminated and before it's come to fruition properly in your brain, here's what happens. Your well-meaning friends and family and people who don't have your vision because they haven't caught your vision, here's what happens. They go into fear for you. They worry about you. And so what they do is they start telling you all of the reasons why maybe it's not a great idea. Maybe you should think a little bit more. Maybe you should sit back and, wait and assess the situation. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a good thing to sit and wait and maybe do a bit of research, but what I've learned is that for a very big portion of my life, I have allowed other people's fears, worries and concerns to stop me from doing the things that I want to do, the things that I thought I could do. And it's become so glaringly obvious with me now because I have an 11-year-old daughter. And I'm watching her come up with these ideas and visions, and I catch myself listening to her telling me stories, and I catch myself going, oh, and my fear comes up. But what if this happens? What if that happens? And I have really had to check myself and really go into a space of, hang on a second, this is her vision. Who am I to decide whether she can or cannot do that thing? So what I've noticed about myself is that more and more I'm really starting to tune into the fact that not only do I need to be mindful about who I share my vision and ideas with, but not sharing my ideas or thoughts until they've ruminated enough in my brain that I will not be so dramatically impacted by what somebody else says that it stops me from doing it. So I want to ask you, like, when you sit back and you look at your life, ask yourself this question. What would you do if you knew that you could not fail? Like, I'm talking like, what is that really grand vision that you have for yourself, that if you had the confidence, if you had the time, you had the resources, you had the belief, you had the worthiness, you thought you deserved it, what would you go out and try that you're not currently trying? Because if you can answer that question, then here is my challenge, right? My challenge is this. Have a look at the list of things that come up that you think you would do if you think you couldn't fail. And then I want you to start challenging yourself about what does failure look like. I've just finished reading this book called Relentless by Tim Grover, and it is such a great book. If you feel like you need a bit of a kick up the ass to go out and make some stuff happen, this book is like epic, right? I absolutely loved it. And the way that he talks about things is that you need to be really clear about where you want to go and then make a decision with how you're going to go about it. But he also talks about the fact that there is different kinds of people. Now, he puts them into categories of either a closer, a cooler, or a cleaner. That piece is not so important, okay? But understanding who you are and how you respond and react and how it is that you're going to take those actions that are required to get yourself across the line, that's the piece that's important. So I want to share with you, like, I've tried this every which way, and I want to share with you now how I'm doing things. Now, you might notice a couple of things. You might notice that in the background, I've got a guitar, right? And the reason the guitar is there is because I wanted to talk about it, because I, a long time ago, said I wanted to learn to play the guitar. Now, it's been one of those things that's been on a vision board. I've thought about it, but I hadn't really actually spoken it out loud. It was a thought. It was in my head, right? And everything kind of got in the way, you know, I mean, as life does, things will get in the way. And so I've never done anything about it. Well, the other day I bought myself a guitar. I also bought my daughter a guitar because she happened to mention in passing that she might quite like to learn an instrument. And then one of the list of instruments that she talked about was a guitar. And I thought, cool, I'd like to learn guitar. Now, just before that had happened, a friend of mine said, I've got all these guitars that I want to sell. And I'm like, oh, actually, you know what? I want a guitar. Can you like keep a couple aside for me, right? So I had been thinking about this, and I had actually spoken to a couple of people just quietly. Oh, I'd really like to learn an instrument. That'd be cool. Never really did much about it. But now that I spoke it out loud, then 2 guitars have come. Now I'm sticking it here in the background. And the reason I've got it there is because I'm going to manifest finding the right guitar teacher. And I'm going to call this little dream into reality by speaking it into life, okay? Your words have power. And whether you realize it or not, the words that you are speaking inside your mind and the words that you speak out loud have power, and they are co-creating your reality. So what reality are you currently living? Is it the one you want? Are you where you want to be? Are you excited about life? Are you kicking the goals you want to kick? So this guitar is just one example. I talk about modeling, and I've said find someone who's doing what you want to do. As it turns out, the beautiful lady that I've met recently, Lee, who is responsible for all of my fabulous hair and makeup, Lee Hanley, she is an amazing makeup and hair artist. If you're on the Central Coast, you may just be lucky enough to get her. But I have started speaking to her about it. Now, it turns out she does a lot of hair and makeup for country music people. So I'm like, do you know a guitar player? She's like, yeah, I do. I actually know a few. So this has all happened within 3 weeks, right? I spoke out loud that it would be nice to learn an instrument. Someone then said they were selling a couple of guitars. I've now got a couple of guitars. I've then spoken to someone else who's mentioned that she knows some guitar teachers, and I've now stuck it here in my video as a reminder so that I can keep speaking it out loud. And I've now spoken it to you guys, which means that now there's some accountability there because I've told you I'm going to go and start doing guitar lessons. So I guarantee you before Christmas, I will have found a teacher, I will book in, and we will be doing guitar lessons. So watch this space. You may just be lucky at some point I'll jump on and I'll sing a song for you. Another idea that has popped into my head recently, and the reason I'm sharing this with you, okay, is that if you knew you couldn't fail, first you have to determine what failure looks like. So the reason I mentioned the book Relentless and the reason I mentioned Tim Grover is that he was essentially the physiologist and sports psychologist and mindset coach for Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, you know, any kind of basketballer who's ever done anything, chances are he worked with this guy, right? And he talks about how the great players, right, they don't believe in failure because failure to them is not something that can happen unless they've stopped. So they determine what their rules for failure look like. And I mean, I heard a statement a long time ago when I did my coaching, and it was, there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. And again, at the time, I don't think I understood it. But what I now understand that to mean is that if you're going for something and you're clear about where you want to go and you don't get it the first time or the second time or the third time or the fourth time, the reality is that you haven't failed. You've been given feedback about what doesn't work, and you've been given more tools and resources on what you need to do to get better. So one of the things that I did when I first started standing here in front of, or sitting here in front of a camera and creating a little show, this was not my first rodeo. HappyAF is not my first attempt at doing this. I tried it several years ago and I've tried again and again, and this has been the first time that I've been pretty consistent for almost 12 months now. So the feedback piece was, okay, my inner critic kicked in the first time. I wasn't really sure about where I was going, but each little step that I took got me closer and closer and closer to where I am today. And this journey will continue going because in the meantime, I've gone and looked at other podcasters. I've looked at other people that are doing shows. I've looked at what is it that makes it successful? What have these people done? What are the guests that they've got on their show? What is it, you know, I'm modeling success. Right? So I'm speaking to you about the things that I know are going to determine where it is that you get to go if you get clear on the vision piece and then you let go of the failure piece. So what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? That's a question I want you to ask yourself. So on the weekend, right, because somebody planted a seed in my brain a little while ago, I spent the weekend researching TED Talks. Now, I want to go back and I want to explain how this came about, okay? Firstly, for a long time, in my mind, haven't spoken it out loud, I've stuck it on my vision board, I have a picture of somebody doing a TED Talk, and I have in the back of my mind, not front of mind, the back of my mind, I've been saying, one day I'm going to do a TED Talk, one day I'm going to do a TED Talk. Haven't been speaking it out loud. One day I'm going to do a TED Talk. I like the idea of it. I've been to TED. I've listened to TED Talks. I think it's amazing. It's kind of like anybody that wants to get into speaking wants to do a TED Talk, right? So it's kind of like that cool thing. But really it's just been a dream, okay? And a dream versus a goal is, a dream is something we think about and we talk about it maybe in our mind, or we have dreams and we think, oh, that would be really cool. But we're not really attached to it. We haven't created a plan. We haven't figured out why it's important. And truthfully, I just thought it would be cool because it's kind of like a bit of a, you know, reputation thing. If you do a TED Talk, then you've kind of like, you're on your way, right? But I didn't have a compelling reason for wanting to do it, which is why it stayed a dream. And then a few months ago, I was a guest on this guy's podcast. I had never met this guy before. Dan Stevens is his name. He's doing some very cool stuff with his business partner. And I was really, really like, you know, enamored with what they were sharing about how they were taking these youth, and these youth were coming in and they were putting them through a 12-month program, which was also an apprenticeship, but they were helping them with their mindset. Like, seriously cool program. And I mean, yeah, paying them to work on their mind and also get a Cert 3 in I think it was drainage, right? And so when I finished this TED Talk, see, I'm already saying it, when I finished this TED Talk, when I finished this talk with this guy, he says to me, so when are you going to get serious about this stuff? And I went, well, what do you mean? He goes, like when are you going to like get out there and really start doing these talks? And I kind of went, oh, like I'm putting this program together and I kind of fumbled around my words. And he goes, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm like, when are you doing a TED Talk? And in that moment, I was like, wow. And, there's no doubt my little girl inside was like, oh my God, he thinks I'm good enough to do a TED Talk? Really? Like, okay. And I got shivers down my spine and I was like, wow. Oh yeah, well, and I kind of went into explanation and justification. He goes, no, by the 23rd of March, you're going to do a TED Talk. Now this was, I think, probably June this year. And I was like, okay. And honestly, I walked away from that meeting going, yeah, sure, Sam, 23rd of March. And then I got home and I looked at my vision board, a vision board I created a couple of years ago. And for those of you that don't know what a vision board it is, it's just essentially a huge board with all the different things that I would like that are my area of focus, right? My area's got, my soulmate that I'm calling in and the travel that I want to do and the TED Talk and who I want to be in terms of inspirational and teaching and coaching and the finances that I want to achieve. So I have this huge vision board and there's this huge corner dedicated to TED Talks, right? So I get home, forgetting I've even got this on my vision board, and I look at it and I go, wow, he just said TED Talk. So I took a photo and I messaged it to him and I said, you know what? Yep, I'm going to do this. Check this out. And he goes, 23rd of March. And I went, yep, you're right. Okay, good. Now it's what month? We're in November, okay? And I've had a pretty crazy couple of months, but that seed was planted because somebody else other than me said to me, when are you doing it? Right? So I had external evidence that somebody else thought I was good enough. Now, I would love to say that my goal in life is to be completely intrinsically motivated, and I am pretty intrinsically motivated, like meaning I motivate myself. I don't necessarily need external influence, but it's really nice when somebody else plants a seed for you that basically says, hey, I believe in you, right? And so he planted that seed and I spent this weekend, searching TED Talks. And there's a lot in Australia. I had no idea. There's actually TED Talks in Brisbane and Melbourne and Perth. And on the weekend, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a TED Talk together and I'm going to get on the speakers list to do a TED Talk. Now, why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you for one simple reason. The more that I speak this into reality, the more that I speak this out into the world, into the universe, the more that I share this story, the more my physiology, my psychology, everything just goes, well, yeah, it's done. It's a done deal, right? It becomes part of my vernacular. Yeah, I'm doing a TED Talk. Yep, I'm going to go and do TED Talks. And what it does for you is it stops your brain from kicking in with all of the inner critic stuff. Because if you say something once, it's unfamiliar. It feels like a lie. It feels uncertain. But when you start doing repetition with anything, it goes from being unfamiliar to familiar. And once it becomes familiar, it can become a reality much easier because confidence comes through competence, okay? People come to me every day and say, I want more confidence. Okay, where specifically do you want to do confidence? Because I bet you I can find something you're confident at. What area of your life are you not doing confidence that you want to do confidence? For me, a while ago, it was talking to a phone and feeling like I was actually leaning in and talking to a real person. Now, am I as good as I am in person talking to a real person? No, I'm not, because it's still very strange talking to a little hole as though it's a real person. But it is my goal. I know that I've worked hard at it. I watch back some of the videos, not too much because I go into too much critic, but I watch them back and I go, okay, what am I liking there? What am I not liking there? What do I need to work on? And I try not to critique too much. But when I first started, I was blinking a lot and I noticed that. I was like, Jesus, stop blinking. So now I'm really mindful. I don't try and like just stare at the camera like this and not blink because that's fucking creepy. But I'm very mindful of being aware of that. And so now I've become more competent at it. So by speaking out loud, I'm going to do a TED Talk in January. I'm going to do a TED Talk in February. I'm going to do a TED Talk in March. Now I'm like, it's become part of my vernacular. Now, when you get clear on what you want to do, right? I've talked with you today about modeling. I've talked with you about what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail, right? No such thing as failure, only feedback. So the simple fact is you could do anything because you never, ever, ever are going to fail unless you quit, right? You never fail until you put your hand up and say, I'm Sam, I'm a failure, I quit, I can't do it anymore. Well, then you still decided. But at the end of the day, that failure is just a story. And if I choose to not own it, it doesn't get to be part of my reality, right? So what was the next thing I did? I sat there all weekend and I was like, TED Talk, TED Talk, TED Talk, looked at where the places were, screenshotted the people that were organising it, started thinking about how am I going to encapsulate all of the stuff that I teach, the stuff that I'm super passionate about, and make it into a neat little 15 to 20 minute talk that is captivating, energetic, vibrant, and more importantly, how am I going to create and craft a story that people are going to want to share, that's going to add value, that is going to help to inspire people, that's going to help me on my mission and my vision for helping people get happy, right? Because it's pointless if I create something, I could have all of the energy and vibration in the world, but if it doesn't land for people, it's no good. So what did I do? I met up with the guy who originally planted the seed about the TED Talk. Now, I met up with him for multiple reasons. What he's doing is super cool, and the organisation he's in, I'm like, you know what? I want to work with these guys. They're working with the youth of today. I also saw an opportunity to connect a client who I think could be of service. So in my head, I'm like, okay, this could be a win, 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 win. And what's beautiful is because he's a giver, he sat there talking to me about how I'm going to craft my TED Talk. So again, it's about putting yourself out there and not worrying about looking silly. Now, the old me, even probably only 12 months ago, would never have spoken this into reality because I would have been too afraid that someone would have said to me, who do you think you are? What are you going to talk about? Who do you think you are doing a TED Talk? Mate, people that do TED Talks, like they have to talk about stuff that's innovative and new and cutting edge. And what do you do that's innovative and new and cutting edge? And I would have listened to that external critiquing because I didn't have the confidence in my abilities to be able to deliver something. But I've now got some evidence, right? I've got the fact that I am well versed in what it is that I teach, and I've run workshops and gotten good feedback, and I've got some rungs on the board. So am I competent at being a public speaker specifically in this particular format? No. Will my first TED Talk be my best talk ever? No. It'll be my first TED Talk. But do I have the capacity to write a talk that goes for 20 minutes? Well, I'm doing my show every week. It goes for about 20 minutes. I can talk for 20 minutes. Now I just have to get clear exactly on what it is I want to talk about, write it down, practice it. I'll practice it to you guys before I go out there. You can tell me whether it's any good. I'll get in front of as many people as I can. I'll share that with people. And by the time I get the opportunity, I know that I've got to have the capacity to be able to talk and get up there and share something. So I really wanted to share this with you today because what I'm noticing is the patterns that I'm now creating that are helping me to achieve the success that I deem as successful. And what is success? Do you know what? It's just setting a goal and achieving that goal. And every day, as long as you're working towards it in one way or another, to me, that's a win. Right? And am I winning every day? No. Am I making mistakes? Yes. Do I let people down along the way? Yes. Do I own that and acknowledge that I fucked up? Yes. I'm not perfect. I am a recovering perfectionist, but I am always doing the best that I can with the resources that I've got. And I am continuing to speak this into life because the more that I speak what it is that I'm trying to achieve, the more that the universe aligns and puts the right people in front of me. So I want to go back to the very beginning and ask you the question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Go ahead and chuck it in the chat. Like, tell me, what is it that you want to do? Send me a private message and tell me, you know what, Sam, if I thought I could do this, I would run towards it. Because sometimes just writing that thing down, like I'm telling you, magic happens. Not sometimes, in fact, all of the time. When you write it down, magic happens. So start writing those things down. And, you know, when that critical voice kicks in and says, oh my God, who do you think you are? Well, who are you not? Who are you not to go and have those things? Why does somebody else deserve to have that thing, that place, that journey? Why does someone else get to have that experience? If not you, who? And if not now, when? Now, I don't know where I got that from. I've heard it multiple times. And a cool lady I just met recently, another cool lady, Kitty, she's doing kick-ass stuff. I'm meeting the badass, like, most amazing people lately. And I know it's because I have really leveled up my energy and my vibration. I'm calling it in. I'm bringing in these amazing people. And I'm so blessed and grateful for what's coming my way, because it's giving me the opportunity to be able to go out there and give back and show up and be more of my shining light for humanity, which is what I told you last week. My name is Sambowker, and my mission on the planet is to love, lead, inspire, have fun, and be a shining light for humanity. I am an authentic, courageous, connected leader, and I'm in the process of crafting my next, check this out. I've already done this, my next TED Talk. Actually, on that note, I just want to share this with you before I finish up today. When I was reading this story called Relentless by Tim Grover, he was talking about Michael Jordan. Now, if you don't know who Michael Jordan is, then, oh my God, I don't know, you shouldn't be watching me, because seriously, Michael Jordan, basketballer, greatest of all time, icon, right? Icon. But you know what? Every time he won one of those championship rings, when he won his first ring, he held his finger up like this to basically say, I'm getting my second one. When he won his second one, he did this. When he won his third one, he did this. When he won his fourth one, he did this, right? He finished on 6. So if you knew you couldn't fail, start acting as if you've already achieved that thing. And then what's the next thing? So I'm sitting here telling you about my next TED Talk. So it's already happened. It's a done deal. The universe is going to align. The only thing that's going to stop it from happening now is me. And I'm not going to, because I'm going to speak it into life. So what is that thing you're going to speak into life today? I would love you to share it with me. I would love you to come along this journey with me. And I will definitely practice my TED Talk here in the coming weeks. And you can tell me what you think. What do you guys think I should talk about? I mean, you guys have been watching me. What do you think I should share? Because I know that if you master your mind, you win the game of life. And I know that my mission is to help you become happy AF. Now I just have to craft a message around that goes for 20 minutes, that is captivating and inspiring and awesome, and will have you sitting on the edge of your seats and loving it. So that's my plan. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to share this with you today. If you have enjoyed this, please make sure that you like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Share it with somebody who needs to get out of their way, get out of their own way and tap into their power, shine bright, be fabulous, and go out and be a shining light for humanity. I love you guys. Have an awesome day. Big hugs. Lots of love, light, and gratitude, and I will see you next week. Bye. You can be what you want.